Imagine spending several $1 billion on a business that might lose money every year. The employees demand enormous salaries. Customers become furious when the product disappoints them. Your competitors are trying to destroy you in public every week. And even after spending hundreds of millions, success is never guaranteed. For almost any normal business owner, this would sound like a terrible investment. Yet whenever a famous sports team comes up for sale, some of the wealthiest people on earth compete for the chance to buy it. In 2025, an investment group agreed to purchase the Boston Celtics at an initial valuation of approximately $6.1 billion. That was remarkable because the previous ownership group had acquired the team for only $360 million in 2002. In just over 2 decades, the value attached to the franchise had increased by billions of dollars. And this is not an isolated case. Across basketball, football, baseball, and European soccer, billionaires continue purchasing teams even when the clubs report losses, carry enormous debt, or require constant injections of cash. So what are they actually buying? Because the answer is not simply ticket sales. And in many cases, it is not even profit. They are buying one of the rarest assets in modern business, a permanent seat inside an industry that almost nobody else is allowed to enter. When people hear that a sports team is losing money, they usually assume the owner made a mistake. But there are several different meanings behind the word loss. A team might genuinely spend more cash than it receives. It might also report an accounting loss after including depreciation, amortization, interest charges, and other non-cash expenses. Or it may be profitable as a team while the owner spends heavily on a new stadium, training facility, or surrounding development. These situations are financially different. Even though they may produce the same dramatic headline, team loses millions. Manchester United, for example, is a publicly traded company, which means it publishes detailed financial statements. Its filings have repeatedly shown that a globally famous club can generate hundreds of millions in revenue while still recording operating losses during difficult periods. Even the Green Bay Packers, one of the NFL's most recognizable franchises, demonstrate how quickly annual results can change. The Packers reported an operating profit of $83.7 million for the fiscal year ending in March 2025, supported partly by more than $432 million in national NFL revenue. But rising expenses can significantly reduce those operating profits from one year to another. For a conventional investor, unstable annual profit might be worrying, but billionaire sports owners are often looking at a completely different number. Not how much the team earned this season, but how much someone may pay for the entire franchise 20 years from now. There are thousands of technology companies. There are millions of properties. A wealthy investor can build another hotel, create another clothing brand, or finance another software company. But they cannot simply create another NFL franchise. They cannot wake up tomorrow and launch a new NBA team in New York. Entry into the major leagues is controlled by the leagues themselves. Expansion is rare. Relocation requires approval, and ownership groups must be accepted by the other owners. That transforms every existing team into something much more valuable than an ordinary company. It becomes a scarce license. When Steve Ballmer agreed to purchase the Los Angeles Clippers for $2 billion in 2014, many observers believed he was overpaying. At the time, the price was extraordinary for a team that had spent most of its history living in the shadow of the Los Angeles Lakers. But Ballmer was not only buying players, uniforms, and ticket revenue. He was buying one of only 30 positions in the NBA. He was buying permanent access to Los Angeles, one of the largest entertainment markets in the world. He was buying a share of future league media agreements. And most importantly, he was buying something another billionaire could not easily reproduce. A factory can be copied. A restaurant can be replaced. But when a sports franchise disappears from the market, another opportunity may not become available for years. That is why the bidding becomes so aggressive. The buyer is not comparing the team only with other businesses. They are competing against other billionaires for an asset that may never become available again. A sports team may appear to be a local business. Its stadium sits in one city. Its supporters wear one set of colors. Its employees train in one facility. But the most powerful leagues operate like global media companies. The NFL signed long-term distribution agreements with Amazon, CBS, ESPN, Fox, and NBC extending through the 2033 season. The The NBA later signed new 11-year media agreements with Disney, NBC Universal, and Amazon extending through the 2035-36 season. These deals matter because sports possess something increasingly rare in entertainment. People still want to watch them live. A movie can be watched tomorrow. A television series can be streamed next month. But a championship game becomes less valuable the moment everyone already knows the result. That urgency creates enormous audiences at the same time. And advertisers are willing to pay heavily for access to those audiences. When a billionaire purchases a team, they are therefore not only purchasing a local club, they are acquiring a small share of a powerful live entertainment network. Even a poorly performing team can receive revenue connected to national broadcasting agreements. It does not have to win the championship to participate in the wider economics of the league. The owner may lose games, but the league continues selling the attention generated by all of its teams together. Sports supporters judge teams by victories. Investors often judge them by appreciation. Those two things are related, but they are not identical. A championship can increase merchandise sales, ticket demand, and sponsorship opportunities. But a team does not necessarily need to dominate its league for its value to rise. The Boston Celtics were acquired for approximately $360 million in 2002. In 2025, the NBA approved a sale, valuing the franchise at more than $6.1 billion, with the total transaction potentially reaching a still higher figure as ownership transfers are completed. Part of that growth came from the Celtics' history and sporting success, but it also reflected something larger. The NBA itself had become more valuable. Media rights had expanded. Global audiences had grown. Sponsorship opportunities had increased. Digital platforms had created new ways to reach supporters, and the number of available franchises remained almost unchanged. This means an owner can tolerate weak annual profits if the underlying asset is appreciating by hundreds of millions or even billions over time. Consider a simplified example. Suppose an owner loses $20 million per year operating a team. Over 10 years, that would represent $200 million in cumulative losses. That sounds disastrous, but if the franchise rises in value from $2 billion to $5 billion during the same period, the owner has gained $3 billion in estimated asset value before considering debt, taxes, and transaction costs. The annual losses have not disappeared, but they become relatively small compared with the appreciation of the franchise. This is similar to owning a valuable piece of land that produces little income. The owner may accept weak cash flow because they believe the land itself will become far more valuable. A major sports franchise is not just a company. It is a trophy-shaped piece of digital, cultural, and physical real estate. A billionaire may appear to be buying a sports team, but sometimes the team is only the anchor for a much larger project. A stadium attracts thousands of people to the same location. Around it, developers can build restaurants, hotels, apartments, offices, retail space, and entertainment venues. The team creates predictable traffic. The surrounding property captures the spending. Milwaukee's Deer District demonstrates this model. The district is a roughly 30-acre mixed-use development anchored by Fiserv Forum, the home of the Milwaukee Bucks. It includes an entertainment block, a plaza, training facilities, and parking, with further development surrounding the arena. This changes the calculation completely. An owner may tolerate weak profit from the team because the team increases the value of everything around it. The stadium becomes more than a place where games happen. It becomes an economic engine. Restaurants fill before matches. Bars remain busy afterward. Apartments become more attractive because they are located near an entertainment district. Sponsors pay to associate themselves with the venue. Corporations rent luxury suites. Concerts and other events generate revenue when the team is not playing. In this model, the sports franchise is the magnet. The surrounding businesses are where part of the return is collected. And unlike a normal shopping center, the development has something that cannot easily move elsewhere: a permanent emotional connection with millions of supporters. There is another return that never appears clearly on an income statement: status. A billionaire can own a large house, a yacht, or a private jet, but those things do not necessarily place them inside an exclusive public institution. Owning a major sports team does. The owner sits courtside. Their name appears on broadcasts. Politicians meet with them. Business leaders want access to their private suites. Celebrities attend their events. Cities negotiate with them over stadiums, development, and infrastructure. They become part of the identity of an entire region. For someone who has already accumulated more money than they could realistically spend, this form of access can become more valuable than another financial return. A sports team provides something even a billion-dollar bank account cannot automatically purchase: relevance. Millions of people may never care who owns a private investment company, but they care deeply about who controls their favorite team. Every decision becomes news. Every major signing creates attention. Every victory connects the owner's name with celebration. And every championship places them on a stage, watched by millions. This is not passive luxury. It is public power. But that power has a dangerous side. Supporters are emotionally attached to teams in ways customers are rarely attached to ordinary companies. An owner who increases prices, threatens relocation, or repeatedly fails to compete can become one of the most hated people in a city. The asset brings status, but it also brings permanent scrutiny. One of the most repeated explanations for sports team ownership is that billionaires buy teams to avoid taxes. The truth is more complicated. When someone purchases a professional sports franchise in the United States, parts of the purchase price may be allocated to intangible assets. Under U.S. tax rules, certain acquired intangible assets can generally be amortized over 15 years. This can create deductions even while the overall value of the franchise may be increasing. That sounds almost magical. An owner may hold an asset becoming more valuable while claiming deductions connected to the gradual tax treatment of some of its acquired assets. But this does not mean the government simply refunds the price of the team. The exact outcome depends on how the purchase price is allocated, the owner's tax position, the ownership structure, and future transactions. Deductions reduce taxable income. They do not transform a bad investment into a good one automatically. And when the asset is eventually sold, additional tax consequences may apply. So taxes can improve the economics of ownership, but they are usually not the entire reason a billionaire spends several $billion. The real attraction comes from the combination: scarcity, media revenue, asset appreciation, real estate opportunities, status, influence, and potential tax efficiency. Each one makes the others more powerful. This leads to the biggest misunderstanding surrounding money-losing sports teams. Sometimes the team is losing money, but the owner is not. The franchise might report a loss while its estimated value increases. The team might struggle while a nearby development generates revenue. The owner may spend heavily today to construct a stadium that increases the franchise's value tomorrow. An accounting loss may contain expenses that do not represent cash leaving the business during that exact period. And even genuine cash losses may represent a tiny fraction of the owner's total wealth. Imagine a billionaire worth $50 billion, covering a $30 million annual team loss. For an ordinary person, $30 million is unimaginable. For that owner, it represents 0.06% of their estimated wealth. The equivalent for someone worth $100,000 would be approximately $60. That does not make the loss meaningless, but it explains why the owner may view it differently. They are spending a small portion of their wealth to control a rare asset that may appreciate dramatically and provide access, entertainment, and influence unavailable anywhere else. For some owners, the team is a financial investment. For others, it is a passion project. For many, it is both. The major American sports leagues have created an unusually attractive structure for investors. Teams compete intensely on the field, but financially, they cooperate. They share national media revenue. They negotiate league-wide agreements. They restrict entry. They establish rules controlling player spending and competition. And unlike European soccer, major U.S. leagues do not generally relegate weak teams into lower divisions. A terrible season can be embarrassing. But it does not normally remove a franchise from the league's central economic system. This stability is one reason American teams can command such enormous valuations. In European soccer, the risks can be much greater. A club can spend heavily chasing success, miss qualification for an important competition, and lose major revenue. At the extreme, relegation can reduce broadcasting income, sponsorship value, and player values at the same time. The emotional attraction remains powerful, but the financial outcome can become far less predictable. That is why the phrase sports team can describe two very different investments. One may be a protected franchise inside a closed league. Another may be a historic club facing genuine competitive and financial danger every season. The badge may look similar. The business model is not. So why do billionaires buy sports teams that lose money? Because annual profit is only one part of the return. They are buying an asset that almost nobody is permitted to create. They are buying a share of enormous media contracts. They are buying land, development opportunities, and control over venues. They are buying status, access, and influence. And they are buying the possibility that the next billionaire will pay far more for the same team in the future. To supporters, a team is history, identity, and loyalty. To players, it is competition. To cities, it can be culture and economic activity. But to an owner, it can be all of those things, and also one of the rarest financial assets on earth. That is the real secret. The team may lose money this year. It may lose games for several years. It may disappoint millions of supporters. But as long as the league grows, media companies continue paying, and other billionaires keep waiting for an opportunity to buy. The owner may still be winning, even when the team is not.